Welcome to sunny Glendale, Arizona, and today we are taking a tour of State Farm Stadium, home of the Arizona Cardinals. Come along on this journey as we explore all around the stadium, including the broadcast booth, press box, luxury areas, the locker room, and even go on the field, or where the field goes when the games are played. A quick overview of the stadium. Construction broke ground on the stadium in 2003 and was completed in 2006, costing about $450 million, or around $730 million in today's money. The stadium holds around 63,000 fans, but is expandable to 73,000 for large events if needed. On average, the stadium holds more than 100 events a year and has space for more than 20,000 cars for parking. The stadium is owned by Arizona Sports and Tourism Authority and is operated by ASM Global. Before this stadium, the Cardinals played at Sun Devil Stadium, home of the Arizona State University football team. The Cardinals moved to Arizona in 1988 and spent almost 20 years playing at Sun Devil Stadium. Other proposed locations for the Cardinals Stadium include Mesa, Tempe, and Avondale. When their new home opened in 2006, it was briefly known as Cardinals Stadium, before it was then sponsored by the University of Phoenix. It was known as the University of Phoenix Stadium from 2006 to 2018. Since September 2018, it has been known as State Farm Stadium with an 18-year naming rights deal. In addition to the Arizona Cardinals playing their home games here, it also hosts the Fiesta Bowl every year. The stadium has hosted 3 Super Bowls: Super Bowl 42 between the New England Patriots and New York Giants, Super Bowl 49 between the New England Patriots and Seattle Seahawks, and lastly Super Bowl 57 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. With the stadium being in a warm climate and being relatively easy to change over with a retractable field, more on that later, it hosts its fair share of non-football events. For other athletic events, it hosted the Men's Final Four in 2017 and 2024, along with multiple games in both the 2016 and 2024 edition of the Copa America. It is also a common tour stop for large music acts. Some of the names that have played the stadium include the Rolling Stones, Garth Brooks, Taylor Swift, Coldplay, Metallica, and Beyoncé, just to name a handful. Now that we've gone over a bit of the history and background of the stadium, let the tour begin. The tour starts by the team shop, right next to this convenient standing sign. Once being led inside, you get to this mosaic tile of the Cardinals mascot, Big Red. There are also a bunch of photos next to the Cardinal. Those were photos of Cardinals season ticket holders when the stadium first opened. If you were a season ticket holder, you could send in a photo to be added to the wall. Below that, you have members of the Cardinals Hall of Fame. After watching a little intro video, that wraps up the foyer area. Let's head inside to the stadium. The stadium has multiple giant pillars that hold it up. The Cardinals decorate them with things about their history, including events, players, coaches, all dealing with the team and their legacy. I always find it cool to walk around a stadium when it's completely empty. There aren't 60 to 70,000 people. It's basically just dead silence and just a handful of people walking around. The design of the stadium has both bare bones, simple elements, as well as more fancy ones. The structure has plenty of concrete and steel, the basics of any stadium, but also has dozens of luxury areas called lofts. We'll check out those in a little bit. Our first real stop inside the stadium is about where the 50-yard line would be. Here is a great view to look around the stadium and really take it all in. You'll notice the seats are red and gray, and at first glance appear to be laid out in a sort of random manner. The pattern of the seats is actually designed intentionally and is designed to create a visual pattern that mimics a Native American mandala. The stadium was pretty empty on the day of my tour, but there's always maintenance and stadium personnel lurking around. One detail I thought was semi-interesting is that all of these lines of red tiles on the floor lead to an exit. So if you see those, it means there is an exit nearby. This is the case for all of them, except for one randomly. I don't know why. As we continue our walk around the stadium, we come across another one of these informational and historical pillars. This one discusses the stadium and its construction history. When the stadium was being built, they had to dig up a ton of dirt for construction, and they actually kept that dirt and still use it today. They keep it in storage and bring it to the stadium whenever there is a motocross, monster truck jam, any event like that where they need a lot of dirt. Taking a look at the field the Cardinals use, you'll notice it's outside. They keep it outside so it's constantly getting sun and only bring it in when they need it for football. The field was actually the first retractable natural grass field in North America. It takes around an hour to move, but that can change depending on if they have to stop to fix it or make any changes to it on its way in, and so on. The playing surface has more than 500 wheels, powered by more than 70 motors with 1 horsepower each. That's how they get it moving in and out of the stadium. When the field is inside being used, the area becomes a parking lot for team personnel. Way out beyond the field, there's actually a helipad out there. That is so the Cardinals owner can take his private helicopter to games. Because if you got the money, why sit in traffic, I guess? Back inside the stadium, the roof is almost always closed, but it is clear and it lets in a ton of light, unlike many dome-top roofs. For the majority of events at the stadium, the roof is closed. However, once you get into the fall and winter, they might open it up for Cardinals games. If the temperature is above 80, the roof will probably be closed. That leaves the main chance for the roof being open for November or December home games. They could still opt to keep it closed for whatever reason. It is totally up to the discretion of the team. Next up, we are headed to the Cardinals' press conference room. It is a bit more spacious compared to the visitors' press conference room, which we'll be checking out in a little bit. Leaving the press conference room, we get to walk around the lowest level of the stadium. It is home to press conference rooms, locker rooms, storage, all those sorts of things. We pass by the home locker room, but we don't get to go in. Unfortunately, the Cardinals don't allow access on the tour to the home locker room, which is a bummer. But now we get to take a look at the visitors' locker room. The locker room, like all visitors' locker rooms, is smaller and not as nice as the Cardinals one. A fun story they told us on the tour: when the Eagles played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl here, the Chiefs were the designated away team, so they had to use the visitors' locker room. However, the locker room must not have been up to their standards, and they weren't happy with it. So, the Chiefs paid to have the bricks knocked down so they could create a path between the visitors' locker room and the auxiliary locker room so they could have more space. After the game, the bricks were put back and the wall was recreated after the game was over. The locker room was pretty empty with it being in the off-season and all. They had a few things on display for tour purposes. On display were concert t-shirts, soccer jerseys, things like that represent the different events that have been held at the stadium. Next up, we take a look at the visitors' training room, which is connected to the visitors' locker room. It has things like ice baths, tables, things like that. Before then having a peek inside the visiting coach's office, which isn't too special. Exiting the visitors' locker room, we head to the away team's press conference room, which is quite small, and there's really nothing too special about it. Just kind of a small room. Basically, a huge oversized closet. Next up, we're about to walk out one of the tunnels onto the field. Or should I say, where the field goes when the games are played. What you are seeing now is how tall the stadium field sits when it sits inside the stadium. It is a couple feet high, so it's no joke. Before the stadium hosted its most recent Super Bowl, the stadium added the new giant scoreboard, which has more than 3 million pixels, with a resolution 7 times higher than the old one. When they wheel the playing surface in, there is a good amount of extra room on it than just what is between the hash marks. The team adds in extra luxury areas on game days, which are pretty pricey, as you are literally on the field while the game is going on. It is pretty cool to be down on the field and look up and see how many seats there are and how big sports stadiums can be. Next up, we are headed through a different tunnel and we'll be going to check out the press box area. The press area is really cool and nicely done, I thought. It is named in honor of Steve Schoenfeld. Schoenfeld covered the Cardinals for years before he was tragically killed in a hit and run. The area gives a nice tribute to him and includes pieces that he wrote up on the memorial wall. The press box area includes a buffet area and a lounge area that the writers can sit at when the game isn't going on. For viewing the game, the press box area offers a ton of seats and a great view of the game. During the game, it is supposed to be almost dead silent as there's no cheering or anything like that allowed. Next to the press area is the statistician's booth. So if you're upset about your fantasy player being 1 yard short or something like that, you can take it up with them. Continuing the walkthrough of media areas, we pass by the replay booths, radio booths, as well as then passing more luxury suites. We then stop and look down at one of the club areas. There are a few of these around the stadium, and these are even more exclusive and expensive than the suites. Because if you've got the money, why stop at just a suite? Just go for the club. Next up might be one of the best views in all the stadium. It is the broadcast booth. This is where your TV announcers call the game from. This is your CBS, NBC, Fox, whoever's broadcasting the game. On game days, the booth doesn't look this empty. They have all the broadcast equipment and those types of things that fill up the booth. Next to the broadcast booth, we have one of the coaches' booths for any of the coaches that aren't down on the field. After the broadcast booth, we have another luxury area. This one is called the Bubble Lounge. This might be the most upscale place in the stadium, but it's hard to say. The lounge is marketed as the NFL's first champagne lounge. Very, very fancy. As I mentioned, there are more non-football events here each year than there are football games, which might be one of the reasons for all the luxury spaces. Speaking of luxury areas, here's another club area down below. Now we are in one of the standard lofts, their word they use for a suite. These suites are pretty standard for what you might find in other stadiums or arenas. There are more than 80 of these style lofts across the whole stadium. These areas have their own bathrooms and also come with food, drinks, as well as TVs. Depending on the size, they hold anywhere from around 15 to 30 people or so. They also come with early access to the stadium, as well as being able to stay for an hour after the game ends. That is in addition to premium parking and a private entrance. Leaving the loft, we walk around the concourse of the stadium for a bit more before wrapping up our tour. If you notice why some sections of the upper deck have seats that don't go all the way up to the top, there's a reason for that. The designer of the stadium didn't want to have any obstructed view seats, so to accomplish this, they didn't have the seats go all the way up to the top in every section. With that, we have wrapped up the inside part of our guided stadium tour. There's one more area I'm going to check out, but that is outside of the stadium. That is the area honoring Pat Tillman, which is the last stop on my tour of State Farm Stadium. The area is not inside the stadium, so it's not a part of the official tour, but it is something I wanted to see. For those who don't know, Pat Tillman played safety for both the Arizona Cardinals and Arizona State, before then leaving football to join the U.S. military in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks. He served in both the Iraq War and war in Afghanistan, before he was killed in action in 2004 in an incident of friendly fire. To honor Tillman, the Cardinals retired his number 40 and added him to the Ring of Honor. He is also remembered in the plaza outside of the Cardinals Stadium with his statue of him with his flowing hair and holding his helmet. Opposite his statue is a water sculpture that was also created in his honor. It lists the days he played for both the Cardinals and Arizona State. After checking out Pat Tillman's area, that wraps up my Arizona Cardinals stadium tour. Overall, the tour is a pretty cool experience. It lasted for around an hour and a half and went all throughout the stadium. The only part that was kind of a bummer was that we weren't allowed inside the Cardinals locker room. If you'd like to book a tour of the Arizona Cardinals Stadium, it's pretty simple to do. Just go onto the stadium's website, and the tour is pretty easy to find. How often and when they run the tour depends on the time of year. The price is around $30 per person for the tour. I hope you've enjoyed this behind-the-scenes tour of State Farm Stadium, home of the Arizona Cardinals. If you're a football fan, I would definitely encourage you to check it out if you're in the area. This was my second NFL stadium tour after touring the Buffalo Bills' old stadium. so it was cool to compare the two and see how different they were. If you're wondering what the Bills Stadium tour was like, I'll link that video below. If you have enjoyed this tour of State Farm Stadium, consider subscribing for more stadium tours and sports videos in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.